Welcome back to episode 3 of the Brew Chronicles. We've changed our environment again. Tonight we are off to our home brew meeting, so I thought we'd fit this sneaky one in before we head off.
Yep. Shaz has been kind enough to head out to one of our local brew stores that sell some nice and eclectic beers. We have one of Ranger's triple IPAs here.
Yeah, triple dry hopped triple IPA, so
Yep.
she's going to be pretty gutsy. Sits at a steady 10%.
Nice and light to kick the night off.
Today we want to talk about water chemistry in home brewing, but I think first, we'll just highlight this a bit. Now, what you don't know is that on Monday I had the pleasure of trying the brew we did together a week ago, or a week and a half ago.
The all-grain NEPA that I whipped up. It came in at a double. It's almost punching triple numbers itself. Double dry hopped. I'm running about 400 grams worth of dry hop. If you want to check out the grain bill that I've used for it, you can obviously go back and hit the video. Kegged it up over the weekend. She's still a little bit green. So it'll be nice to see how it conditions out over the next week or two and see how it is.
But the point that I wanted to bring up is when because I obviously don't drink a lot. These are your beers.
Yep.
I like a hazy. I like something hoppy. This is like a next level up for me. But the similarities between what you've produced there, even green, to this is phenomenal.
Yeah, I've been putting in some work. And a lot of that rolls back to what we're talking about today, and it is water chemistry and the utilisation of it and why it is important.
I would just like to preface, before we kind of jump into any real discussion, and I think you're in the same brew, always brew your way. I never want to come across as the home brewer who sits there and is like, you've got to do this, and if you're not doing it, you're shit house.
And why it's important to my sort of style of brewing.
Yeah, so I have obviously, if you've been watching the content from the get-go up until now, I have transitioned to using RO water. I'm using because it is available to me. I don't notice as much of a difference with the extract brews. In saying that, our water's pretty tidy here.
Yep.
I think it has a real place for all grain. So do you want to kind of touch on what RO water is?
So RO water is reverse osmosis, essentially. So you've pretty well got 3 styles of water. You're going to have your generalised tap water, you're going to have filtered, bottled or spring water, and then you're going to have reverse osmosis water. Now, as it pertains to the chemistry of said water profiles, it's going to differ for everybody's tap water independently, depending on location. Spring water obviously still has some minerals and so on inside of it. I'm not completely well versed on what all of them are. Obviously, you'd have to get it tested.
We will put a little interjection in here. You and I aren't scientists.
No, by no stretch of the imagination am I a chemist.
Nor are we, geniuses when it comes to water chemistry.
No,
this is really
I'm not a genius at the best of times.
This is our experience with it, and you know a hell of a lot more about it than what I do. And it's just us sharing our experience and hopefully giving you a little bit of knowledge along the way.
Yeah. So again, touching on RO water, the thing that's beneficial as pertains to brewing is because you're essentially stripping out almost everything out of the water. So it pretty much gives you a blank slate. So when you are doing your calculations for a certain style of beer, it's a lot easier to narrow them down. Instead of trying to adjust on top of what is already in the water, it's pretty much giving you a blank slate to have whatever chemistry you want.
So we touched on the RO water. Can we talk about the actual chemistry part?
Yeah, so with the chemistry, you're going to want to cater your chemical adjuncts to the beer depending on style. Yep. So hazy is obviously going to want to be a softer, pillowy style beer with a better mouthfeel. Things like your lagers, your pillies are obviously going to want to dry up, have them crisper. pretty much insert style of beer here. Every single different style of beer is going to have a different style of water chemistry. Now, I utilise a tool called Brewfather. I'm sure many people are aware of. There's plenty of brilliant all-grain recipes on there, plenty of brilliant extract recipes on there. There's also a water calculator on there. So, like I said, Shaz said, I'm not a scientist or a chemist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm nowhere near smart enough to do this sort of stuff. Thankfully for us, they have an inbuilt tool. Pretty much you crank in whatever your grain bill is going to be, the volume of water, you pick your source water, whether you customise it because you've had your tap water tested, spring water, RO water, and you pick the style of beer. Now, there is an absolute metric ton of different listings of styles, and you essentially pick one of those and it will give you the numbers in which that you need.
So I do know of a couple of guys who utilise water chemistry but don't utilise RO water. And basically the way that they determine their water chemistry, they pull it off SEC water. So that's for us here in North Brisbane, or SEQ water. They have a really good something on their website which gives them a fairly detailed idea of what's in the water.
And that's the thing too, like, we're really lucky in the area that we are. We have pretty bloody good water quality, and we also do have the ability to utilise tools such as that, because obviously everything is tested as it comes to ground. So, and
I imagine that most people would have that available to them. So, like, I certainly never started brewing with RO water because it wasn't, RO system wasn't available to me. No. I was not about to jump out and continuously buy spring water, especially for the way that we brew.
Yep.
So if I was brewing here now without the access to RO water, but I wanted to dive into the idea of playing around with water chemistry and seeing what it's about, you can still do that without using RO.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we said. So, like I said, inside the tool of the Brewfather app, you get to pick your source water. So it will automatically adjust and do all the calculations for you. So if you have a source water profile, just punch the numbers in and you can adjust it accordingly. It's not something that people without access to RO or spring water, or if it's not economical feasible for you to expend that much money for water, that's completely fine. You can still utilise this.
So then I think the next thing we might touch in on is a few of the things that you add to your water. So obviously it's not going to be specific advice on quantities or whatever, because as we've said, that's dependent on where you are, what you're using, what style you're using, but a kind of a brief overview of the adjuncts that you are adding in.
A couple of the different salts that we're going to utilise are predominantly chloride and sulfates. So calcium chloride I'll start off with because it's probably one of the biggest adjuncts that I put in my beer. That is going to give you softer, more roundness in your beer. So you use it predominantly more in styles like your hazies and your neepers, ones that you want to soften up, essentially. Your next one's going to be gypsum. So gypsum is a sulfate. It is going to enhance hop bitterness and the crispness and dryness in your beer. So you're probably going to utilise that for more things like lager,
or a pilly,
pillies, cervezas even, that sort of style of beer. Epsom salt is also in that category. It is also a sulfate. Like I said earlier, I'm not a chemist. I don't entirely understand what the difference between different sulfates are. This is why we have these tools built by smarter people than you and I, so that we can utilise them accordingly.
And I think there's also just highlights, Jess has only really dived into this side of brewing in the last, say, I don't even think it'd be 6 months.
No.
And it is all a learning curve.
A couple of other things that I will touch on that might be slightly outside of this is, another one is pH. Now, for majority of all grain mashes, you're going to be between 5.2 and 5.6. Again, it's going to be dependent on your style of beer.
Do you test your pH every all grain you do? Or
yes.
So you do. So the Brewfather app doesn't give you that information?
It gives you a specified pH for what yours should be for that style of beer. So like I said, that's why you have to be pretty meticulous with your grain bill. You don't want to be punching in some numbers and then just throwing in a whole lot of adjuncts, or going, I might throw in a kilo here or pull back from this. your source water and the quantity of your water is paramount, because it's taking all of those numbers and giving you a calculation based off of it.
And then for people like myself, not where you are, when you're testing things like pH, have you gone all the way to a pH meter, which I know there is one at the shop, or when you're at home doing these, are you just using testing strips?
Now, I use a pH meter. Reason being is because we're trying to get into the decimal places of pH. It's pretty important. If you're using the strips, it's pretty much 1 through 14. It's a little harder to really narrow that down. So yeah, I use a pH pen.
So for people playing at home who are probably in my position, haven't jumped all the way to where you are yet, what do we need to be considering getting our hands on, making sure we have to make this transition as smooth as possible?
I'll keep it short and sweet. A set of really good scales.
For your brew salts.
For your brew salt. So you're going to want one that comes down to at least 1/100th of a gram. Your next one is obviously your brew salts. You can buy kits from your local home brew store. We have them at Crafted Days, thankfully. The next one is going to be a pH meter. This is more so for your all grain sort of styles, but a pH pen is going to be absolutely paramount in narrowing that down. Also, with your brew salts, you're also going to need some sort of acidity, whether that be phosphoric acid, lactic acid, whatever that adjunct to lower your pH, because you should have some form of alkaline in your brew salt kit to be able to raise it up. So they're pretty much the 4 key things that you need.
It all sounds really daunting, I guess, when you potentially first hear about it. But brewing salts are actually super affordable.
Super cheap.
Phosphoric acid, most of you guys would probably be using that as your sanitizer already. So if you decide that this is where you want to go, it's not a huge investment or outlay to take your brewing to this next level.
No, in a roundabout figure, you're probably looking at around $70.
Right, and that includes things like the pH pen.
pH pen is more than affordable. Your salts are dirt cheap, and a decent set of scales are like $15.
Yeah, and that's going to last you. Like, that's not every single brew.
Your bags of salts are going to last you a long time. Unless you have enough time on your hands to be crushing out all grains every week. I don't have the time and patience for it, but it's going to last you a long time. So from an economical standpoint, it's not that big of an outlay.
Yeah, nice. So that pretty much sums up, I think, the intelligent part of this conversation. But in my little haul this week of craft beers, I did jump on the really wild side with a couple of one drops. So if you haven't heard of them, I'm going to crack one on screen just so you can see it and get our thoughts on it.
Easy done. I'll go and grab them.
So I'll do the honours with this one. So this one is their ice cream sour. Yeah, so ice cream sour, get down and get real, homies. Because this eye catcher here is a brand new ice cream sour with bold lashings of Aussie mango, strawberry and milk sugar, all rubbed together with a red, very cool oob. Is that how you'd say that? Oob?
Yeah, ube. Oob.
Ice cream and big kiss of marshmallow fluff. It's pretty out there and we're here for it, but don't get carried away. Compadre? Compadre, what's it mean?
Like a companion in. I think it's Spanish.
Oh, right. Get down, get real, and get pissed. What's the ABV of this one?
6.3, I believe.
She's pretty gnarly.
So this is Shaz's first experience with...
one drop.
Yeah, so...
Oh, mate. Holy shit.
What do you think? Love it?
I do love it, but I would love it as on like a breakfast smoothie.
It's almost like a sort of like a melted sorbet sort of type.
100%. It's like a boost juice.
Yeah.
But like with a little bit of like tarts
Bit of zing.
dwindled in there. I would drink this for breakfast and that's bloody dangerous.
So we're not going to sit here and bore the piss out of you by you sitting here and watching us polish off the rest of these beers. But yeah, any other closing statements on what we said today?
I don't think so. I'm really mindful when we're planning these episodes to hit majority of brewers, not just be on the side of beginners or right in the middle of intermediates or all the way to the fancy folk. If there's specific things that you want to see, like, please share with us. We had some really good feedback from other things of like what you wouldn't do as new home brewers on the YouTube comments. So that's something we'll certainly touch on because I think there's some really valid points. But we really need your feedback so that we are providing you with the information, because really we're just two blonde bimbos talking shit.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, if there's anything else you would like to see from us, if there's anything else you'd like to hear, anything else you'd like to touch on, or anything we do better, just hit us up.
Cheers. Cheers, guys.